Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk, NBA version. We haven't been able to say that in a long time.
How about
So
that?
it is awesome, man. It is awesome. I am Joe Sarvati, by the way, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here with my podcast partner, Mr. Andrew Hansen, and we're going to do a little preview of this big Millie Maker Thursday two-game slate in the NBA. Talk a little bit about just the bubble and how things are looking, give a little preview, and we're going to get after it, man. This is just, I cannot believe that we are actually at the precipice. Here we are. We're going to have NBA action that counts tomorrow. Can you believe it?
It is very hard to believe. It's it's like you pinch yourself because we've talked about it so much. This date, July 30th, we've had it circled on our calendar now for about 6 weeks or so. Once they finally made that announcement, and what an exciting day of DFS to start out with a two-game slate, Millie Maker on both sites.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
it is. It's great, and I'll tell you, everything so far, knock on wood, with the NBA bubble has just been fantastic. Again, we've been giving a big salute to Mr. Adam Silver for being such a fantastic commissioner and getting all this organized, but it really seems to be working well. Everybody's, seemingly not getting sick and everyone seems comfortable. So, as opposed to some of the other sports that are all over the place, man, I feel good about the prospects of all of this playing out in the NBA, don't you?
Yeah, another week of no positive tests. I really like how they staggered everything with teams in their home cities. Then they got to Orlando early.
Yeah.
It's just been a first class run process here, and yeah, everything's set up here for the tip off, and everybody can get after it.
And it's going to be so much fun. I mean, we're going to have wall-to-wall basketball, like 12 hours a day. And, the way they're playing only 6 or 7 games maximum in any given day, the rotation is just constant basketball right into the playoff run with it. I mean, this is going to be fantastic. I love this setup. I mean, it's a DFS dream come true, really, for how you want to be able to play this. You don't have to worry about back-to-backs. There's just so many good aspects of how this is going to play out for DFS. We don't have to sweat out those real late games with changes that you don't see or hear of on the West Coast, and it's great stuff, man. I cannot be more excited. And from the perspective of DFS Coach Talk, it's we were off to such a fantastic start when we launched, and it was such an abrupt shutdown. It was like, what's going to happen? But, we've survived it. It looks like everything's going to be great. And, I think we're the better and wiser for it. It gave us the opportunity, to really get everything in order here at DFS Coach Talk and be prepared to give the best of the best. Not only just our picks and lineups, but just, articles and information, content, just really good Discord with built up with, all of your information right in there. So couldn't be happier and ready to go for sure. So before we jump into this two-game slate and then talk a little bit about the whole 22 team bubble here and how that's going to pan out, I would like to thank our presenting sponsors. We have mybookie.ag, which is the place to go for all of your sports action and casino action. They have a special promotion, 50% all the way up to $1,000 on your first deposit that will match, and that is with the promo code Coach Talk. So go to dfscoachtalk.com or mybookie.ag. Use the promo code Coach Talk with no space. Got to remember, no space. And you will get that offer plus a $25 free play just for being a listener. Also, tvg.com. They're the best horse racing site and service in the world, really. They have tvg.com, and they're on every cable network as well to watch and wager on horse racing. And their special offer that you can only get through us here at Coach Talk is the $300 risk-free bet. So you can put $300 on the nose of a horse. If he loses, tvg.com, they give you the $300 back. So also the promo code Coach Talk, and the easiest way to get to it is just go right onto our website and click the banner that's flashing $300 risk-free bet. So that's it. That's what we've got there. Couple of things again that we want to just state for those that are just totally put basketball to the side and not really paid a whole lot of attention and are just jumping back in. Couple of general things. There are 22 teams in the bubble in Orlando, and they're playing out 8 regular season games for each team, and then they're going into a play-in situation for the 7-8 seeds to get into that last spot. There are rules and regulations. We've gone through those on a couple of past podcasts, but basically it's going to allow the teams that are right there pushing for a last spot to qualify and get in. And then there's a ton of jockeying on the positionality of who's going to play who in the playoffs. Now, obviously, nobody gives a hoot about home court advantage because there isn't one. But as far as who the matchups are, there are some teams trying to avoid other teams. I'll just give one example right off the bat. The Mavericks right now would be matched up against the Clippers, and that's not exactly who they want to open the playoffs with. So they're motivated to win a few games and hopefully get somebody like Denver or one of the other teams that are right around that. Not to say that Denver isn't a great team, but again, the purpose of that is the jockeying for position to see who you play in the playoffs. So the setup is great. It's going to play out like normal playoffs as far as the amount of games. It's going to be a legit champion. In fact, a lot of people have said that this is the ultimate legit champion because, all the other stuff about being able to play at home, over the time frame that it's played, the whole 9 yards. I mean, you're going to have to earn this. If you've been involved in basketball or coached or played, and you've gone to AAU events, you got to buckle in and play. You're at the facility. You have to be disciplined, focused, stay on the same page. You're away from family and friends and everything. So it's a true test. I mean, it's going to be a long 3 months or so for some of these guys to be in this scenario, and it's going to take a lot of teamwork and dedication. So I'm not downplaying this whatsoever. I think it's completely legit, and I'm extremely excited about it. So what is your overlook of how this is all playing out with the 22 teams and the play-in, and sort of your take on how this has been set up?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty smart system. Once they made the decision not to include every team, to then go ahead and play 8 games, gives you plenty of time to get in the groove for the postseason after these 3 scrimmages. And I agree, one of the most important dynamics of these playing games is going to be the jockeying for position, and we'll see it every night on each slate. I think there'll be a different set of teams that we think are going to be pushing a little bit harder to win versus others that are just more there for development, like Brooklyn. But the fun thing about this first slate is I think all 4 teams want to win. You look at the Pelicans, they're tied for 10th. They obviously need to push forward to get into the playoffs. Utah is the 4 seed. Right now they get to play Oklahoma City. I think they probably would prefer that to playing somebody like Denver or Houston right around them. And then the Lakers are the number 1 seed. They're 5.5 up. They're very likely to finish number one and get to play Memphis. So if they go ahead and beat the Clippers here in the first game, that pretty much seals it. And, same thing with the Clippers. As you mentioned, they're set up to play Dallas. I think they're going to prefer that than dropping down to the 3 seed and potentially having to play Houston. So bottom line is I think all 4 teams are going to push to win, and we'll get the full effort, assuming that all the key guys are out there, which is a big assumption at this point.
Yeah, and I don't think that even like the Lakers, they pretty much have this locked down for first place. I don't think that they're going to take these games lightly or just sit guys and stuff, because no one's played basketball in all these 3 months. So as far as getting team unity and getting into a groove going into the playoffs, these 8 games are extremely important. I mean, I know if I was coaching in this scenario, I would treat these 8 games almost like the first round of the playoffs, because if you're going to get in a groove, get your rotation set, get, all of how you're going to run things, because almost every team inevitably has either someone hurt, someone sitting out because of COVID, someone that didn't want to come to the bubble to play. I mean, there's almost exclusively all 22 teams have some different situation that they have to adjust to. So these 8 games are going to tell that tale. And I think you'll see, like Vogel with the Lakers, I think he's going to coach these games, like he wants to go 8-0, and he's going to play his guys their minutes and try to get that in sync. The big advantage we have here at DFS Coach Talk, I mean, truthfully, this does play into our hands, because we build lineups by hand. We build them organically. We watch all the games. We like to see a lot of how people are reacting, how they're playing together, how the coach is reacting to players, who's getting those money minutes, and all of those different aspects that you really can't get without watching it, and watching it with sort of a coach's eye, if you will, because you have to see all those things, that aren't showing up in the stat sheet. And if anybody tells you that those things don't matter, then they don't understand the game of basketball, because those things are all extremely key. So, again, I want to say DFSCoachTalk.com, sign up for a week, month, year, however you want to do it. Come in, check us out, because we're going to continue to do 7-day-a-week NBA podcasts starting today throughout the very last game of the finals. And we're going to share a lot of great information on these podcasts. But if you really want to take it the step further, to see what our builds look like, to get our entire FanDuel lineup and what we're calling our coach's clipboard, which is a great player pool of players that we're going to utilize in most of our DraftKings lineup, and then an additional player pool of guys to choose from to fill in that roster. Those things are going to be in our Discord, and those are offered to our members, and we'd love to have you a part of it, because we're going to, go through every game, every team, every day, looking for all of those different advantages. And in my opinion, right now, just utilizing a cruncher to, spit that information out, I just don't think is maximized at this moment, because there's no sample size. This is a new situation, a completely new set of circumstances, totally different rotations. Usage is going to shift immensely. So really looking at the statistics only, or specifically, is less valued than it's ever been in any sport in DFS that I've ever seen since I've been playing it from the first day. Because again, you've got to look at every scenario. Just take the Lakers, for example. Removing Avery Bradley from that is one thing right off the bat. So you're taking a guy that's not in the bubble. He's not going to play. He's their best perimeter defender. He gets solid minutes. It changes that entire rotation, the usage, the bench, with Caruso and getting more minutes, and Rondo injured and out for the whole time. So there's so many things that have happened with every team that affects all of that. And those affect LeBron and AD and the whole 9 yards, because that all meshes together. So we're going to give you that every day. We're going to break those situations down. We're going to talk about, who we expect to step up, who the coach chatter, and what's going on that we're getting information on, from the bubble. There's not going to be the beat reporter info like there used to be, because there's nobody there to, be a beat writer. So we're going to be listening to the news, watching the games, and then making what I think are going to be just a huge advantageous piece of the game, this 8 games of the regular season they're finishing out, because I think it's going to take a lot of people that time to get even a small sample size of what to expect. But we have already dug into that. We've watched every preseason game. We've made all of the notations. We've relooked at each team based on who's playing, who's not playing. And I'll tell you what, there's not one of the 22 teams that I don't have completely rated and changed from where we ended on the day that the season shut down with the Utah Jazz game that we were watching. Everything's different. And, it might be confusing for some people or intimidating. I think it's the biggest edge that you could possibly have. So I'm ecstatic, Andrew, and I know we've talked about it, off the podcast, and I'll tell you, I could not be more excited. So I think, you're going to see some great basketball. I don't think it's going to take long for these guys to get into a groove. I know it looked a little rusty the first couple of preseason games here, or scrimmages as they called them, but I think you're going to see a pretty quick tune-up for some of these teams to a very high level. And then we also will take into effect the teams that are just here, for experience, the teams that really are just completely out of it, like the teams like the Nets, the Suns, teams that just don't have any hope to make it. So, we'll look at those teams a little bit differently also. So I know it's a little long-winded, but the main thing I wanted to state was join us at dfscoachtalk.com. This is the best time that I can remember ever having an advantageous spot and a huge edge in DFS. So anything else you want to say as far as the league and how the playoffs are coming up?
No, good summary. Yeah, we're just ready to crush it here. Can't wait for it to get started.
All right. Well, let's go right into the 2 games for the Millie Maker. And the first game on the slate is the Utah Jazz and the New Orleans Pelicans. I almost was going to say at the New Orleans Pelicans, but they are playing, and mybookie.ag has the line at the Pelicans -2.5, which is a little surprising that that is the line. I thought the Jazz would be favored, to be honest with you. And it's a 224 over-under, so it is 9 full points higher than the second game, the Clippers and the Lakers. So expecting a little more scoring in this game, a little less defense. Again, a lot of it is going to have to do with true game time decision Zion, whether he plays or not. But, based on the spread here being close and the over-under being pretty high, this is certainly an advantageous game to utilize, and I would not look past it and just stack the Lakers-Clippers. What do you think?
I agree completely. And it's a really, interesting set of numbers when you look at the 3 matchups that these teams have had in the regular season. First one was 128-120. Utah won that one. Next one, 128-126. Utah winning again. And then an overtime game that New Orleans won, 138-132. So if you take those totals, that's 248, 254, and 270. And you mentioned how the total is 9 points higher than the Lakers and Clippers, but those totals far exceeded 224 every single time. And the one thing I think that people look at if they haven't dug in yet, is they glance at Utah and they think, all right, slower team. They're 25th in pace so far during the regular season. But this is one of the things that's changed. Bogdanovich is out, and the team is playing faster. They're running more fast breaks, and they're talking about running more fast breaks. And I think we're going to see that right from the get-go with Conley and Mitchell, Clarkson, Moutier a little bit when he's in there. They're going to look to push, and New Orleans they are fast already. They're second in pace. They have not been good defensively. They're 19th in that category. So I think everything is trending towards a higher scoring game here than the Lakers and Clippers.
Those are great points. And as far as from the betting side, the 224.5, it sounds like the over may be a fantastic play there. Certainly something to keep in mind, from the betting side. A couple of things that I want to say about Utah that supports a couple points that you made there. The Jazz, for a good portion of the beginning of the season, if you remember, first of all, they had Bogdanovich. Secondly, Conley was out for a long stretch early on, and they had not traded for Jordan Clarkson yet either. So, you take those guys out of play, and a lot of times they were running a slowdown offense where it was almost Ingles playing the point a good portion of the time when they got into a half-court set, and it was just a totally different game. But since the return of Conley and Clarkson coming over and doing a good job, and really pushing the ball, as soon as they started raising the pace, they performed better. You saw Mitchell's numbers increase, and they were just more effective. So it is a quite a bit different team than it was at the beginning of the year. So I don't think, for those people that always think the Jazz are just a defensive slow it down team, it's really a different face to that team than it was for the majority of the season coming before this. And they really only had about 9 or 10 game sample size with Clarkson and with that unit in place. So I think I agree with you there. I think the Jazz are in a good spot here. The Pelicans definitely are not a good defensive team. And I think, they're going to have their way offensively in quite a few situations here. So I favor that side. If you're going to play the game itself, I'd almost just take the money line at plus 115 on the Jazz and roll with it if you think they're going to win this game. If Zion sits out, it becomes definitely an advantage to Utah. I mean, Zion is a difference maker. There's no question. If he does play, I think we both agree, and we talked a little bit before the pod, that I can't imagine them throwing him out there more than about 20 minutes. So I think even if he does play, it'll be somewhat limited. And, I think that's going to have a little bit of an effect on the game and the interior of the game for sure. So Pelicans are going to push. Their guards are all healthy and ready to go. And I think this will be an up and down game. And I think both these teams have some key players that I think that are very usable. And there's some fantastic value on some of these guys, that are underpriced. I'll give one example here. A lot of this stuff will be really working hard on in Discord tomorrow and sharing some information there. But a guy like J.J. Redick, for example, is only 4,000 on FanDuel, and he's only 3,600 on DraftKings. So, I mean, there are a lot of guys like that should get a decent run and can put up some fantasy points quickly. And Redick isn't as the empty suit that he always was with just points only. He's been getting some assists and a few rebounds and being a little smarter, I think, on the court, even than he used to be, even though he's a little bit older now. So a guy like that helps you build out a lineup, and there's some good value on both sides of the ball in this game. Would you agree?
I would. J.J. Redick, for example, I like that he's had 2 of 3 good shooting games here in these scrimmages. He has had 2 strong games against Utah. One of those he was in the starting lineup. I'm expecting him to come off the bench, but at also 3,600 on DraftKings. There's a lot of guards for New Orleans in that 3K range that could make a big impact. Josh Hart, we know he's had some big games. He can gobble up rebounds. He's only 3,900. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's been getting some run. He's only 3,000. He's minimum price on both sites. But the big news is it really is going to be Zion. It's just incredible how much things change when he's on the court versus when he's not. And the 3 matchups between these 2 teams, he has not faced them. And Brandon Ingram has gone off. He's averaged 58 DraftKings points in those 3 games. And at 8,300, you're looking at over a 7x return if he does it again. But if Zion plays, you really can't expect that. So
exactly.
Some major dominoes over there. I like how Drew Holiday has looked here with the ball in his hands a lot. He and Ball are going to push it, as you talked about. So I think they'll play off of each other. On the Utah side, we've got a similar situation because Bogdanovich is out. And they're another team where, as you mentioned, they just haven't played together that much, where you don't really have a sample size of, okay, Bogdanovich is out, Conley's in, Ingles is in, Clarkson is in, Mitchell's in, what's going to happen? Because it's always like one of those guys is missing.
Right.
So like Mitchell had a huge game against New Orleans. He had 46 points against them, but Conley didn't play that game. Ingles had 2 really good games against New Orleans, but Conley didn't play in either of those games. So it's really hard to project, and that's why we're going to keep crunching the numbers throughout the day tomorrow. I'll give one value play for Utah, and that's Royce O'Neal. He's 4,900 on both sites. I think he looks like he's playing with confidence. He's playing aggressively. He's catching and shooting. He's not hesitating. He's also driving to the basket and creating. So there's a key value play that I think I'll have in a bunch of my lineups.
It's a smart move. I'll tell you one other thing I'll add on this game. If Zion doesn't play or plays very limited minutes, I think the value guy you've got to keep an eye on is Nicolo Melli. He gets minutes and he can score. And I think he has a lot more of a bump usage-wise with Zion off the floor, just not only just in minutes, but just in usage in the paint. I mean, he can hit the 3, but he also can get down in, get some rebounds, and mix it up a little bit. So that's a guy to keep an eye on, depending on the Zion news. And again, it's a domino effect how that's all going to transpire. I mean, if Zion is going to play 30 minutes, I think it makes it very difficult to get to Ingram or Holiday because of the price point with the usage factor. So, I mean, it really comes down to we need to listen to all the news we can up to lock, and then you sort of have to make a decision on what you think is going to happen with Zion as far as his contribution in this game, because it definitely makes a difference in most of the players that are going to be on the Pelicans side. And then for me, I think the big bump with Bogdanovich being out, personally, I like Jordan Clarkson. I know Royce O'Neal is also going to benefit. I just like the impact Clarkson's had there. I think Quinn Snyder's a big fan of his. I think they saw a real lift when they picked him up from Cleveland, and I think that it's a great move, and I think that he may show out a little bit and become a bigger factor if Utah's going to make any kind of run.
I do.
All right. Let's go to game 2. This is the game that certainly everybody's going to be gearing and looking at because it is the 2 LA teams, the Clippers and Lakers. And mybookie.ag has the Lakers as a 4.5-point favorite and the over-under is only 215, which is pretty low with all these spectacular players. But we know that the Clippers have, two of the best defenders, probably two of the best five defenders at least, or better in the league in George and Kawhi. And then I think the defensive player of the year is probably Anthony Davis on the Lakers side. So you got some great defenders here on both sides, and that does, affect things a little bit. But I think the Stars rise. I mean, they're ready to play. I think everybody gets full minutes here for the main, two stars on both sides. And the question will be, how much focus are on those guys in making your lineup and finding the periphery guys that are going to fit into this game. Because I think there's some phenomenal value in this game, especially at the guard spots, because we know that there's all kinds of things that have transpired here. Lou Will is not playing in this game. Montrezl Harrell's not playing. We know that Avery Bradley is not going to be there for the Lakers side. We know Rondo's hurt. So you have huge elevation to the Reggie Jacksons. And let's see, from the Lakers side, you also have
Caruso.
Caruso is who I was trying to say. Caruso's going to get some extra minutes.
You were still thinking you were thinking he might be in Texas down the road from you at the wedding.
Yeah, exactly.
You forgot he was in the bubble. He was back in the bubble. He didn't leave.
I can't believe it. I know. But Caldwell Pope's another one, and then Kuzma's expected to play. Is his role going to increase? There's a lot of guys here that weren't huge contributors before the shutdown that are now going to be in a position where they're, it's going to be very important. I mean, you take Beverly and Lou Will out of the Clippers backcourt, all of a sudden, you're looking at a whole different situation there. So, it's going to be very interesting. I think, do you lean on the Stars here? Do you find the value to go with them? Or how do you mix and match it with the other games? So even though it's only a 2-game slate, I think there's nothing super obvious here and a lot of different ways you can go on your build.
Yeah, I think there are, because there are so many value plays, like you mentioned. I mean, this slate, the pricing's been out for a while, and there's no way to predict who was going to be in or out. And so we've just got the value we always talk about popping up. It's just popped up already.
Right.
So guys are underpriced with what it looks like will be their roles. Guys like Reggie Jackson and, the guards with the Lakers, I think it's a little bit more cluttered with KCP and Danny Green likely to start. Danny Green's the guy that I'm probably going to fade mostly. But he's just one of those guys that will always surprise you. And his stat lines against the Clippers are like Danny Green in a nutshell. Opening night, he had 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists against them. Then he had 6 points, 3 boards, and 1 assist. Then he had 0 points, 4 boards, and 0 assists. So he is, really boom or bust.
Yeah.
But KCP's getting some run. I like how he looks. Caruso, now that he's back in the game, he looks to have a real good opportunity here, handling the ball when LeBron is off the floor. And you mentioned Kuzma. I mean, he's a great price on both sides as well. So, yeah, it's a lot of great options with the value plays. I think with the Stars, kind of surprising that Kawhi has been so cold shooting. Paul George has performed better at this point through the scrimmages, and he's a lot cheaper. So that'll be interesting to see if that holds form here as the play-in games actually get underway.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the scrimmages, Kawhi has been ice cold. I mean, he has missed shot after shot. I think he was like 2 for 16 in one of the games. I mean, it was wasn't like he just didn't get many shots up. He just couldn't make anything. So again, how much value do you put in that? He's a pro's pro, so he'll step up. I want to go over just real quickly here the guys that have injuries or have been in or out of the bubble for these two games in the Millimaker. I want to wait until we finish the first game because almost all of the news is from this Lakers Clippers game. But I'll give you just the latest brush of news and the probability that these guys are going to play. And right now, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he has pretty much been cleared. He's about 85% chance to play, and he is should be fine. I don't expect him to have any real issues. He had a rib contusion, and he's looking good. Same thing goes for Kyle Kuzma. He had sprained his ankle. He's pretty much given the thumbs up. He's probable in 85%. LeBron's not even worth mentioning. He's probable as well. He had a sore groin that he slight strain. Again, an 85% guy. Landry Shamet is confirmed. He's in. He's back. He was one of the guys that tested positive for corona. He's gotten past that, just like me. I'm in that category as well.
Yes, you are.
I'm probable for tomorrow. Only probable, not confirmed. And so Shamet, is he going to play a role in there? We'll see. That's yet to be seen. We know the odd thing with Patrick Beverly is he's actually listed as questionable. So it says there's a 50-50 chance here that he could play. We know Lou Will and Montrez are out for sure. So, who knows with Pat Bev? I mean, that definitely changes things as well. Perimeter defense wise for the Clippers, but he's hardly played at all. So if he does play, I've got to think it's in a limited role, but I would not count him out. We've already talked about Zion ad nauseum here, so we have no clue what's going to happen. Nobody does. Anthony Davis, of course, he's been on every injury list for the last however many years he's played since he was in second grade, I think. But he is listed as probable. He's almost definitely going to play. He had an eye contusion, poked in the eye. He needs the Jabbar goggles, I think, but he's going to play. And one guy that is confirmed in that had gotten dinged a little bit that has had a really good 3 scrimmages is Nikhil Alexander Walker. The question is he going to get enough minutes? Based on what I read from what, Gentry had said to the press was, he needs to be patient and his minutes will probably be limited just because they're so deep at guard. I mean, they have Josh Hart and all kinds of guys. So I don't know. I love Walker. I mean, it's been over a year now, but the July 1 year ago and 3 weeks, Dawson and I were at the Summer League, and Alexander Walker just tore it up. I mean, the kid's got game for sure, and he's not afraid to shoot the ball. I just don't know if he's going to get enough minutes. I think 15 to 18 minutes tops, and I'm not willing to roll out the dice. And we already said, the guys that are definitely out: Bradley, Rondo, Williams, Harrell. So most of the news comes out of that Lakers-Clippers game, which affects a lot of things. And, that's the up-to-the-date, news. And, again, we're not going to get a lot of breaking news from beat writers that get tips and this and that because, they're all in the bubble. So, that stuff isn't going to leak out as much. And which is the coaches are going to love because they can control things a little bit better. I'm sure Gentry, he doesn't want Utah to know if he's going to play Zion or not, because that changes their game plan. So, to some extent, we're going to have to play that by ear, but that at least gives you an idea. And it also, really drives home the fact that, again, this is a totally different reset of different players under different circumstances and different contributions. So going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it well. Nice summary there. A lot of key pieces and question marks. So we'll be analyzing it all day as soon as we get any sort of updates.
No doubt. If you're watching this right now, you're watching on YouTube, please push the thumbs up button and subscribe. That makes a big difference to us as far as being able to, continue to do these podcasts with our sponsors, and it gets us higher in the rankings so we can keep these in front of the paywall forever. That's what our goal is, to do that. So please, like and thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're listening to this through all of the podcast outlets, whether it be iTunes or Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, everywhere podcasts can be found. If you're on iTunes specifically, a quick 5-star rating and a comment would be fantastic. We're going to start a contest here soon where we're going to have a drawing again. We did this before the break, where anybody that puts a 5-star review and puts a comment in there has a chance to win a free 1-month membership. So please do that. We really, really appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter throughout the day, every day up until lock. We're putting information up there constantly. We're at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. He is at Andrew Hansen. No, he's not. He is Andrew Hansen. He's at Language Olympic. Just plain old Language Olympic. Still nobody knows what it means, but it's okay. That's fine. And then we need the story behind that someday, by the way.
Okay.
And then we have our man Shane. We can't forget him at DET Sports Shane. That is our man Sugar Shane. And Freddie, let's not forget him. It's at Freddie Mills 7. That's FREDDIE. So that's where you can find us there on YouTube. Look up DFS Coach Talk. This is a perfect time to spruce up on the NBA teams that are in this 22-man or 22-team bubble, because we've done a breakdown of every single team. It's on our library of podcasts that are right there. All you have to do is search DFS Coach Talk on YouTube. Instagram, DFS_Coach Talk. And that's really all of our information that we need to get out there. We just want to make sure everybody can, hear, evaluate. We tell everybody follow the process that works. It's proven to work. And that's check our podcast out, follow us on Twitter throughout the day. And then the third step is just jump in Discord with us as a member and, chat with the other pros, other people in the Discord. And then you're going to get a full FanDuel lineup and this coach's clipboard, which is, I think, the best thing you can get for DraftKings to really help you build some championship winning lineups. So what else do you have, Mr. Hansen? It has been a full day. We've had baseball sweats providing baseball lineups. We have PGA. This is our doubleheader podcast. Hopefully you caught our PGA podcast earlier, or you have time in the morning because the tee times are pushed back a little bit more than normal because there's less people in the tournament. So catch that. So it's the 3-sport U.S. sports are back. It's what we've been wanting and waiting for. So they're here, man, and this is fun. I've got such an adrenaline rush here. I'm ready to keep going. I may even play KBO tonight. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, it is fun. And you mentioned how you have the probable tag for tomorrow. I mean, 2 weeks ago you had the questionable tag. In all honesty, all seriousness, I mean, you had COVID. And I was concerned. I wanted you to be here for opening day, the restart in the NBA. So I'm glad you're healthy and we can kick off again here with some NBA coverage and get after it here. Like you said, 7 days a week NBA. So make sure to keep tuning in, and we hope we can give you some great advice for your lineups.
Absolutely. Last thing to mention, our charity of choice, we always close with it. It's mambaon3.org, MAMBAONTHREE.org. Fantastic charity set up by Kobe's family. So great stuff. We will be, the podcast will be a little bit longer in the NBA. We're trying to stick to that 30, 35 minute, 40 minutes so you can squeeze it all in, get the info and move on. But, we'll go a little bit more in depth, especially with this first round of games, because we feel we have some serious edge in a lot of these games, and we want to share that with you. So we'll be back 7 days a week. You can catch us here. We're going to be going over every single game that's played in the NBA, every slate. We will not miss one, God willing. So hopefully we'll start off with a bang tomorrow. I know we're both taking a pretty big shot at these Millie Makers. I know I'm excited for you, Max. You're max entering, so look for that Bedford scoring name up there, because I know you're going after it. So I'm excited for you on that. For a guy that usually plays 1, 2, or at the max 3 lineups, I'm going to roll 40 of them out tomorrow. So my brain is going to be on max overload for sure. But so you got to get, why not? Let's give it a shot. The money's out there. Great opportunity. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of splitting of the win, more than likely, with so many different only so many combinations with only 4 teams playing. But you know what? I'll take my share of the million. I have no problem with that.
Why not?
We can divvy it up. I like to share.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be bad if we both finished in the top group with the Millie Maker. I think that would be nice. And hopefully DFS Coach Talk.
Yeah, hopefully some members will tie it. We can all just tie it and share it and split it up. That'd be great.
Let's do it, man. Well, fantastic. Any last words?
Let's get after it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us for this first NBA podcast on the return. We're ecstatic about it. We'll be back tomorrow with another NBA show with a bigger slate. So we're going to really get down and dirty tomorrow for sure. But great going for the Millie Maker. I hope everybody does great, and best of luck. Definitely follow us on Twitter throughout the day so we could try to help you get to the top of the mountain here. So thank you for joining us, and we will catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it. And I get to say it in NBA DFS. See you tomorrow.